I'm Donna, the Transdimensional Twin Flame. Today is February 11th, which means it's the 5th year since Chris's transition to the higher dimensions when he graduated Earth School. What I'm showing you is a slideshow that the cloud made me showing our interdimensional Raven Afterlife party 3 years ago. Actually, it was 2 years ago, on his 3-year Ascension Day anniversary. What I will do with him is he will curate a playlist of songs encoded with the energy of where we want to go. And then for my private Facebook group, I give them this playlist, and I also create images of where we're going to go embedded with that same energy so that they can entrain themselves to this portal and then bilocate with us to a special party across the veil. So this was the last party. This was 2024. This is inside the Pyramid of Light. It is a pyramid-shaped tent. This was me getting ready to host the event. You can see my phone right there. That's where I was hosting from. I did a little sound healing, and we talked about what it might feel like to bilocate. And a lot of our guests did report that they went to the party, which was at a magical amusement park on the other side of the veil. And they had a great time. They met my dragons. We saw each other. It was really amazing. But the part that nobody knew at the time, because I had just found out, was that my mom had also transitioned that morning. So when I got up that day, not long before this party, I got the message that she had transitioned. And I couldn't really process it because I'm thinking, okay, I'm about to have an interdimensional afterlife party for Chris, and now my mom shares the same day. And it couldn't help but remind me that the last time I saw my mom was on Chris's birthday. And so these people are now just inextricably linked. And I knew that Chris was sharing his party with her. We had helped her go through a transition exercise a few months earlier because in an exercise for a class I was doing, we were supposed to practice helping someone transition and show them it was okay if they wanted to see. So Chris and I showed her what the other side was like and how beautiful it is and how you don't need to be afraid of it. I wasn't sure if she was afraid. It seemed like she was holding on to life even though she really disliked it. And I didn't want her to be afraid. So we did that. And a few months later, she did transition on Chris's 3-year Ascension Day. So this day, right now, February 11th, is Chris's 5-year Ascension Day and my mom's 2-year. And I know they're having a party, and Chris and I are going to have dinner. He likes to have spaghetti. And also, I should mention this. During these parties, the reason I took these pictures is because spirit people and us will show up in the pictures. For instance, on the side of the tent, there's light patterns on the side of the tent, and one of our guests was appearing there from spirit. And we can also appear next to our loved ones. So everybody that came to this party appeared in the photos. There was one photo of the group where everybody gathered all over the tent. And one of our medium friends, Nikki, can see spirit in our photos much better than I can. I can sometimes spot Chris. I can sometimes spot other people I don't know, but I couldn't match them up with, well, if I had a photograph, I could match them up, but that's not really my forte. So we partnered with her so she could show us where we all were by digitally placing our own photos where we show up in these pictures. And she's done it so many times that it's obviously real because the detail of how we show up in the shadows and the light patterns, it's detailed enough to where you can put the exact digital photo of that person on top and it's the same. So it was in this tent. And if you can see the crystals with the lights around them, there's a round tray of crystals with some lights around them. We were charging these crystals. They're over there on the right side. We were charging them with the energy of this event because we knew the energy was going to be amazing. And what happened was Chris put his photo on every crystal. You see over there in the middle, that round circle right there. It's a tray full of crystals with some lights around it. There's heart-shaped crystals all around the outside. It was right before Valentine's Day, and this was about love. This event was about not grieving. You see all those crystals? He put his face on all of them. So in the pictures of the event, Chris's face was all around the edge of that tray. And my dad and me were in the very middle. And we were separated from the rest of the party. And there was a reason for that. And I've never really told the reason, but I guess why not? I don't really know if anybody even pays attention to these videos, but the reason he was being protective of me, because that's what it was. I was in the middle of the tray appearing with my dad, and then Chris was all around the outside, and then everybody else was sort of a little further away across the tent in these pictures. And I'm like, why are we all separated? And then I saw it. It's because there was a reflection of a baby in one of the heart-shaped crystals. It was a picture of me and my dad together, and then Chris right underneath me as a boy, one of his pictures of himself as a little boy. And then right under him was a little baby reflection that honestly looked like me. It looked like me as a baby. So because of what I knew had just happened the month before, I was looking for baby pictures. I asked my friend Nikki to help me find baby photos because I knew there was one. And this baby didn't have any photos of himself because he was created on the other side of the veil when I bilocated to Chris on January 25th of 2024. And I wanted some confirmation, even though I already had plenty of confirmation. The confirmation was when I looked at my watch. The confirmation was that was his birth I was going to talk about. The confirmation that he existed was what happened to me when I bilocated and conceived him. There was no doubt. So the confirmation, getting reflections in the crystals, which I got more than one. I got one that looked just like myself. I'll show you later. I've shown it before where Chris told me to pick up a crystal and look at it. And I said, okay. And I did. I didn't, I kind of saw something that kind of looked like parents and a baby, but it was abstract. It was a piece of flower agate and cherry blossom agate. So it didn't, you can make up whatever you want. Those little designs in there can look like things, but it wasn't a photographic looking detail. But a couple weeks later, he told me to pick it up again. So I pick up that same crystal, and all of a sudden, this spot pops out of all the other spots. It's white. And I'm like, that's a baby. It highlighted itself, and it showed me it was a baby. And I showed my friend, and she goes, that's not just a baby, that's you. And she had access to my baby photos, and she put it on top of that crystal, and it was me. So somehow there's a crystal that formed how many thousands of years, and it has an exact copy of my own baby photo in it, including my sleeve and my arm and stuff. So that was my other signal that I had a baby. And so 2024 was spent with me energetically carrying this child and connecting my energy to this baby. And it ruined my life for about 10 months. I enjoyed it. I could feel him. And yet it made me not be able to bilocate. So I couldn't visit Chris. And whenever the people from the healing center had to come check on me, I would sort of have to get into a meditative state and they would come to me, but they told me not to come to them. Chris told me not to do anything. He told me to barely leave the house. I was so tired and I ate nothing but junk food. And I thought nothing was going to happen because this is not a physical child. Why would it matter? You know what I mean? Because I'm like, maybe nothing will maybe I won't feel anything because this is a child that'll be born in the astral. And it turned out that wasn't true. And Chris said, well, we didn't know what was going to happen because people don't do this. People don't usually bilocate and conceive a baby and then carry it and then have it be able to be interdimensional. But what happened was, because our energies were combining, I'm still carrying this baby's energy in my field. So it was like adding a new person to my energetic field. And yeah, it did throw me off. And I was exhausted. I slept every day. I just slept and slept and slept. It was the weirdest year because I didn't feel like myself at all. And I didn't eat right. It was hard. But that's how weird my life is, basically, that on the same day that I was having an interdimensional group party for people to bilocate and meet, party with their loved ones, which is weird enough. Also weird that it worked and that we had pictures of it from people from both sides of the veil. Also, though, that then I see Chris being all protective of me and my dad too, separating me from everybody. And then to find out also that my mom transitioned on that same day, so it's her party too. And then I saw her at the party with my dad, and so it's always their shared day, and they call it birthday when they get back to the other side. So, all these things happened, and then the baby's photo shows up in these photos. So if you think about how weird this was for me, and I didn't tell anybody this at the time because I'm not telling everybody about my mom immediately, and I didn't tell anybody about the baby at all, except for a couple people because nobody understands it. It's a bridge too far for most people, but guess what? It is the truth. I don't lie, and I don't have a reason to. And it was actually very uncomfortable, so it's not like a happy... I mean, I'm very happy to have him. He's a gorgeous little baby, little kid. He travels with Chris between dimensions helping people. Chris has a little apprentice now, and he travels with Chris. People have seen them together. He has come through in a mediumship reading with me, and I met this child in a precognitive dream in 2019 and didn't know it until the day he first came in a mediumship reading. I was supposed to have a reading with Chris, but instead the baby came and told me he wanted to play with his new toy that I had just gotten him. I realized after that mediumship reading, I went to my journal. I have a journal app where I write everything down. Something told me to go look back on this date in my journal. And when I looked all the way back in 2019, there was a journal entry where I had a dream of being in a house where I had all my childhood toys, and I called it a museum to my childhood. And there was people in the house. My mom was there, but I didn't see her. And then I wanted to kick some people out of my room because I needed privacy for some reason. And one of the people I had to get to leave the room was a little toddler in an animal onesie, a fuzzy animal onesie. That is how I meet this child. This is the first time I ever met him. He was wearing a little white fuzzy bunny animal onesie because he's obsessed with what he calls earth animals. He's obsessed with Earth. His mom lives on Earth. Do you know how obsessed this child is with Earth? He wants to know everything. And he's so proud of me for being here on the away mission while he and his daddy learn to take care of us. And he travels with Chris interdimensionally to help heal people and open their hearts if they're afraid, He's a gorgeous, gorgeous being, and he's already an artist. He's already sold a painting. We channel together. We're going to channel much more artwork together because we're both obsessed with animals, so that's perfect. He has a lot of good ideas, and so we've painted several paintings together, me and the baby, before he was even born. And he'll just say, he's like, I'm an artist, and he makes art in the clouds too. When I ask him for animals and hearts and stuff in the clouds, he'll do that too, and he'll say, I'm a cloud artist. He doesn't have any self-esteem issues. He's very healthy that way. And he's just a sweet little thing. And he asks me just nonstop questions about the world. Like, why do we have to do this? Why do we have to do that? Why is the cat doing this? You know what I mean? It's wild. And I've never had children, so I don't quite know how to interact with them. But this child is very powerful, and He's not the last child. I had seen 3 children with Ram Dass. I saw Ram Dass at our house on the other side making breakfast in one of my bilocations, and Chris and I were there. 2 little children ran out and called him Papa Ram Dass, because he is a personal friend of ours. He's one of my helpers over there. And so he's making breakfast, and he goes, "Who wants pancakes?" And my kids run out and say, "Me, me, me, Papa Ram Dass." And then me and Chris walk out, and Chris looks all proud because he's like, "Look, we made this. This is our family." And I'm pregnant in the vision. So there's 3 children, and the first one is here with me, lives with Chris, but is connected to me just like Chris is. And he does different things than Chris does, but it's a new thing. So this is all fairly new to us. He was born on December 5th of that year, 2024. So he was conceived on January 25th, 125, and he was born on December 5th, which is also 125. Both of those reduced to 8 for infinity. But the weirdest thing is the confirmation when he was born. I was not sure how I would know he was born because he's not going to physically be here. But when I felt like he was, I looked at my watch to see what time it was, and it was 11:11. And I'm not joking. It was 11:11. Our twin flame portal number, it's the violet flame portal number. It's the day I started to be born into this life, and it's our wedding anniversary. It's also like 9 months since Chris's and my mom's transitions. Exactly. I think it is. Let's see. Yeah, 9 months. Exactly to the day that my mom and Chris both transitioned on February 11th, today. So, not only was it 11:11 when he was born, which is what I needed as confirmation, because I always like to get confirmation. The other thing was, a couple days later, I had not noticed, but on that day, I always check the Mayan calendar astrology, because I do follow it a little bit. And I know Chris's, I know his chart, and I hadn't looked that day when the baby was born. I just hadn't looked. So a couple days later, I noticed, I go back and I look to see what his chart was, what the baby's chart was. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, wait a minute, this is Chris's chart. It's Chris's chart. So somehow this kid was born on Chris's Mayan calendar birthday. The same birthday. They all have a number. It's not a similar birthday. It's the same Mayan calendar birthday. They have the same everything. They are both the blue monkey. They're both guided by the same energy. They both have the same energy challenge and the same energy helper and the same powers, like the same hidden occult powers. And they're both portals. So they're goofy monkeys. This is true. They're magical monkeys, because that description absolutely fits Chris. So they're peas in a pod. They're the same person. If I ever want to learn about Mayan astrology and figure Chris out, I'm also figuring out this kid. And I could have never in a million years planned any of this. And it all started, right here at this party that I'm showing you the pictures of. Because that was the first time I had any kind of photographic evidence that this kid was real. Because it had only been a couple weeks since I conceived him, and I had asked for the confirmation. And as you know, if you've been watching me for any time, after death communication, any kind of communication from spirit, it will come with confirmation. This last picture of the dinner, I think that was a different day, but that was also February 11th, probably on the first transition anniversary, or the second one. I sometimes go to my friends and we'd have dinner. So it felt like we were having a date. Chris was like, we're going over your friends, right? So anyway, that is not necessarily the story that I got on here to tell, but it's the wild story of my life. All these things happened on this day, and I couldn't even tell anybody. I'm also wearing jewelry in this picture that Chris gave me from the thrift store when I asked him for gemstone jewelry from the thrift store. And then the next day I went and found my first gemstone jewelry at the thrift store, and it was an amethyst stalactite in sterling silver. crazy. And that's that. So if you watched this, thank you so much. This is all real. I believe that I sound credible because I believe that truth has a vibration, and that anybody who's actually tuned in enough and like evolved enough can actually feel the vibration of truth. Or if you have, if your psychic senses are at all tuned in to your clairsentience, that's your psychic feeling. I believe truth has a vibration, and that it's pretty easy to see when someone's telling the truth over time. You know what I mean? My story doesn't really change. I might forget details, but I wrote them all down so I could go check. Anyway, I document everything. So, so this year is Chris's 5-year transition day. I don't know what it's going to be like. Sometimes these days are very difficult for me because it's 5 years. I mean, I always try to do something good. We're going to have dinner. We always try to celebrate this day instead of, mourn it. But sometimes grief just sneaks up on you. So these days are always a mixture of being grateful that he's here with me still, because it's been 5 years of us cohabitating interdimensionally. That's something to celebrate. It's been 5 years for that. It's not just 5 years since he left Earth School. And I also want to celebrate his accomplishment of graduating Earth School, because when you graduate, that means you did what you're supposed to do. I don't believe it was an accident. I believe that he accomplished his part of the Earth mission, and then he went to learn his part of the interdimensional mission, where I only had to stay here and relearn how to continue my Earth mission. He had to learn a whole new life. So while he was helping me and healing me and connecting with me all those times, since he transitioned, it never does stop. He also, at the same time, was learning how to be a new person in a new life and what his mission was. He has a lot on his plate, but he always has time for me. And I just want to say thank you, Chris, for all of that. Everything I do is in honor of you. We didn't talk about our relationship much when we were in the physical, because he wasn't physically here yet. We didn't want to talk too much until we cohabitated, see how it went. But we had known each other for 6 years or 5 years when we decided that. So, in the 6 years after we met, he transitioned. So we were already very solid in our relationship. But living together is different. So we didn't talk about this much publicly. I don't share my business normally. I only talk about this because it is part of my deep spiritual journey and my interdimensional work. And our work is to show that you can have love that transcends physical transition, and you can communicate interdimensionally. We are all capable of knowing that we are interdimensional. And that's why I call us, Chris and I, Transdimensional Twin Flames. Because I don't just live in this dimension. I consciously go to the other dimensions and explore. And I have a life and a house there with him and a family now. So, my family is in another dimension. And I can interact with them daily. And I just want to say that's thanks to Chris. It's both of us, because he says not to give him all the credit. I get that. He actually says my spiritual knowledge and the work I had done on myself propelled him to a higher level when he got there, because we're twin flames. So whatever one of us accomplishes does affect the other one. And I had taught him a lot. So he was just much more, evolved instantly. And he accepted so much. Like he could have gone over there and not accepted what had happened, and it would have taken him longer to evolve and connect with me. But he's a very evolved person, so he just hit the ground running. He's like, what do I have to do? I have to be with her. I have to show her it's okay. I have to fix this. He was panicked about what it was going to do to me when he transitioned, and I love him for that. That's all he would think about. And he proved to me that he was here so that I didn't have to suffer as bad as I could have. I mean, it was bad, but it could have been worse. And he did heal me from major physical issues immediately. And that took a lot of energy. So this is for you, Chris. This video is a tribute to the amazing parties that we throw together. His music choices are perfect. And right now we're not doing these group events. It was tiring, but I did set up one that people can go to whenever they want to, and it's to destroy the mall world nightmare dreamscape. If you haven't gone down that rabbit hole, look up the GATE program. It was the school program that I was in. They called it Gifted and Talented Education, but turns out they were testing us for psychic skills. So I was in a psychic skill school curriculum for 5 years of my childhood. I guess it shouldn't be that surprising, although it is surprising that none of us were, we didn't consent, and neither did our parents. But a lot of us have this recurring nightmare of a never-ending mall. I won't go into all the details, but it's not a good dream, and I've had it my whole life. So, since we can bilocate and have interdimensional parties, I've decided to have an interdimensional rave in Mall World, and my dragons are going to burn it to the ground. I have violet flame dragons. I've already sent them there. Chris and I watched as they opened up the ceiling and just destroyed the creepy mall and are letting the light in. And when they do that, their violet flame transmutes all of the negative and the lower vibrations into the positive. And light streams through the ceiling, and then the fountains transform into these beautiful gardens of Eden. And, a lot of us are around the same age. A lot of us are Gen X. And we love a rave. And I think if anybody can destroy a nightmare and dreamscape that was put in place by who knows who, it's going to be us. So, on my YouTube and on my Facebook page, there's a playlist about this with an image of the dragons doing this. And Chris picked all the music and embedded the music with the light codes of this event, just like the one I'm showing you. And the images of the dragons also have those light codes. This energy is one of our gifts. We have psychometry, which means we can implant energy into objects, into music, into crystals, into jewelry, into all my paintings and all the paintings that we do together. That's why our creations have so much power. And you can feel it through the phone if you have psychic senses that are clairsentience. If you have good clairsentience, like all the crystals in this picture are charged super high because the energy of this event was so high. And it was enhanced by the fact that we were inside a pyramid. Pyramids do help transmit energy from higher realms to lower. This is where I started to bilocate for 3 days to my own wedding reception. This pyramid was where I was when those multiple day bilocations started. And I realized I could have a party in the astral. And I'm like, why would that be a thing they would want me to do? So with Mall World, I'm thinking, well, Mall World is in the astral. That's where dreams are, I think. And I don't see why we can't consciously go there as a group and destroy it. Because I want to be free of the Mall World dream. And I bet other people do too. It's not just the mall. It's a huge complex of places that we've all been dreaming about. I've been dreaming about this place probably for I don't know how many years. I was going to say 50, but maybe not quite. Maybe 45 years. On and off. It's just a place that I go. It's just it's always there. And it's not good. There's no way it's good because you can't get out of it. So that's my new project. You can use it at your own pace. The energy is there. Chris and I will keep adding to the playlist. It's Chris's list because he's the DJ. He's the musician. That's why I call him the Cosmic DJ. So, we'll be doing that, and I might make a video explaining it too, because probably people don't know what the heck I'm talking about, because it's something we invented. This is something called afterlife parties, and we invented it, so you're not going to hear about this from somebody else, and if you do, it'll be because they got it from us. So yeah, it's confusing, but basically, if you can go somewhere in a dream and do something lucid, you can do it while you're awake. Being awake and asleep really doesn't matter. It's still parts of your life. You're either having, astral traveling or bilocating when you're physically awake or when you're physically asleep. And if you can do it while you're awake, even better, because you're conscious and you can reliably remember what happened to you and remember the information and then take it back with you and use it. These bilocations are very full of information, full of downloads that you won't get right away. Like thought balls that you have to deconstruct later. Just information that it's too much to, it's faster than talking, and it's like you can't absorb it all right away. You're going to get that when you start bilocating while you're conscious. If you have an OBE or bilocation and you're awake, it's so much better because you don't have to wake up and remember what happened. You're awake. It's the same way with channeling. If you can channel while you're fully conscious, that's the new level of channeling. That's what I do. I don't go into a full trance. It's a trance, but I'm aware of what I'm saying, basically when I'm saying it. I can write it down afterwards if I want to, or I could just record it, but I'm not one of those people that goes into a trance and doesn't remember what happens. And Bashar is one of my favorite channels, and he explained that channeling while you're conscious is the new level of channeling. The old level that he started using back in the day, 40 years ago, was where you had to go into a deep trance. And, even before that, they used to have to go do real specific things to get into that state where you could channel. But nowadays, we've all evolved. The Akashic Records has helped everybody evolve because we can all draw on the information from the Akashic Records, whether you know it or not. And our skills have evolved so that it's so much easier to channel these days. So you don't have to go completely out and completely forget what you said. So anytime you guys can do these things consciously, it's better. You don't need to work so many things out in your dreams if you're doing it while you're awake. So if you watched this, you watched one of the weirdest videos I've ever made, and the one that I wasn't planning to make because I never talked about my children publicly. The people I did tell thought I was crazy. Even my friends just couldn't handle it. So I spent the entire year being energetically carrying this baby and it should have been celebrated. This baby should be celebrated. He's amazing. He's unique. He's basically like a new kind of person because he was born to a physical mom and a non-physical dad that are twin flames already. And I bilocated to conceive him. So it wasn't just like I heard I had a kid in the astral. Anybody can say that. I went and participated and created him because Chris and I wanted children, especially Chris. He was bugging me to have children for like a year and a half before I would do it. Because I was like, I just want to be married. Can we not? I didn't know what it meant for me. And I've never been a parent. I didn't have physical children. So now I incorporate things for him in my life. We have some little books for him we can read. We paint together. He actually sold his first little painting. And it was a painting of a cat. He's obsessed with the cats. And I have some stuffed animals around here, and I've decorated differently because of the baby. Like, he likes the enchanted jungle theme. So that's what I've been doing the last couple of years, is having the little stuffed animals and the magical decor that looks like a enchanted jungle, or the cherry blossom forest like I have right now with all my little toys. That's mainly for him, it's a good way for me to reconnect with my inner child as well. So it works on lots of different levels. Okay, thank you for watching. I don't know if that really made any sense, but it's my life. And that's that. Thank you.